Hi there guys, Danny here, and today we talk about cyclocross bike. On our beginner's guide, the first episode was dedicated to XC bikes, so cross-country bikes, and today we have the other type of the bike which actually has racing in its name, because both cross-country and cyclocross are races for cyclists, for mountain bikers, the XC, and this one for somebody just in between. So let me explain what the cyclocross bike is and what three types of the customers I think should consider buying one. So this is the bike we've got here, and as I told you, cyclocross also means racing. The season for cyclocross is right now, so it started in September, now it's December. We are like in the middle of the cyclocross racing. This is, we can call it a winter cycling sport, and this is the cyclocross bike, kind of a budget one on the aluminum frame and the carbon fork. What cyclocross bike is? If we just roughly divided bicycles to mountain bikes and road bikes, the cyclocross bike would be like in between but closer to the road bike. Why is it so? Here is the first feature you're gonna see on the cyclocross bike. The drop bars. These are the typical handlebars for road bikes and a cyclocross bikes. Of course they can have different depth, they can have different width, but in terms of how many different position it gives you for your hands, this is the drop bars, this is the road type of handlebars. And cyclocross bikes will have one. Just my private thought of it is that the drop bars are not always the best one for cyclocross, because on cyclocross you're gonna go through such a terrain, but you're gonna very often jump through different obstacles like artificial ones, and also going through very steep descents and steep climbs. On the steep descents, drop bars with road-specific shifters is not the best one, but that's just my opinion, but it is like it is. Cyclocross is kind of a, some would say maybe weird sport. It is a very interesting one, I do like it, but it's so much different. So we've got the drop bars. That means you're gonna have the upright position and comfortable position on right here on the top, and pretty arrow here in this position. And also since I said that the cyclocross bikes are actually closer to road bikes than mountain bikes, it is 100% true, because many of the components are just road bike components. So the shifter, for example, these are the Shimano 105s, these are road bike shifters, so you're gonna see it on any type of racing bike, road bike, aero road bike, endurance road bike, and also the cyclocross bikes. If we look further at, for example, the crankset will also be just like on the road bikes, but the difference here will be the number of the teeth. So on the cyclocross bike we are usually riding slower, so we're gonna have less teeth on both the larger ring and the smaller ring. There is the other one, you can see the chain is on it right now, so the lower gear, because also on the cyclocross there are super steep, very short but super steep climbs. Sometimes you ride it, sometimes you run it. As an example, this one has 48 teeth on the larger ring, so on the road bikes that would be 50, 52, 53, and 38 on the smaller ring right there. And then when you go further back, this is just the road type of the derailleur, the front one as well. The cassette is as well just the road bike cassette. You can choose between different options, just as on the road bikes. This one is the 11 speed, but just in general this bike has most of its components same exact parts as on the road bikes. So far I just told you that this bike is pretty much a road bike. Well, it isn't, but it's true. These components I just featured are just road bike components. So what's the difference? This bike will be capable of riding through some terrain, unlike the road bikes. So the tires, the tire clearance, I'm going to show you that in a second. Because this bike will be used on the sand, on a lot of mud. This is cyclocross, mud, right? And also snow. and sometimes ice as well. If you watch some cyclocrosses, like last year for example, there were some really icy World Cups, so this bike will be capable of going through that terrain. Why is it so? Of course, the tires I've mentioned. So here we have, for example, just Max's Mud Wrestler, so Mud Wrestler, and the width of it should be the difference. Here we have 33C, so that's the width of the tire. The knobs are pretty aggressive on the cyclocross bikes. Let me just, okay, this is it. On the road bikes we have slick tires. We have some tires made maybe a little bit more for rain, but no road bike would have such aggressive knobs. And also the tire clearance is a lot. So here we have 33. On most of the road bikes you would have 25. See, so 25 millimeters roughly. And here you can see that this frame has much more clearance. So you can put even wider tires, but also the clearance here is for the mud. Very specific part for the cyclocross bikes is that here near the tire, this tube is not wide but very thin, so that the mud will not just accumulate here. And this is very good feature, very helpful one, because on some races there is so much mud that those racers would even exchange the bikes for each lap. Let's look at the bike here in the front. You can see that the fork is really wide and has lots of clearance because the mud, anything you can see right here, for example, can be very sticky to these knobby tires, and we don't want the tire with the mud to rub against the fork, because then we just lose our power. So we have more comfort, we can say. We have much more traction. These are much more aggressive tires than the road bike. These are wider and will allow you to ride through really technical cyclocross tracks. Now the brakes. You might think that the disc brakes are specifics for cyclocross bikes. Well, it kind of started with the cyclocross bikes and then for the road bikes, but you can now ride the disc brakes on endurance bikes, on even some really racing road bikes. So it's not specific for the cyclocross bikes, but definitely for a cyclocross bike this has much more sense than the cantilevers that they used to have. So now I think 99.9% of the guys in cyclocross races will use the disc brakes. Better modulation, but also these are just better for riding in a very muddy and sandy terrain. Another feature for cyclocross bikes is of course the geometry. So these bikes will be shorter and higher than the road bikes. So you're not getting into such extended aero position. You rather need a little bit shorter bike in order to maneuver through very technical corners, very sharp and short corners, which you just hit on the high speed, and the track can be really slippy. So the position will be more comfy. And also the budget bikes, the rule of thumb, the aluminum cyclocross bikes will also have this, which you can see right here, and these are the eyelets for fenders and racks. So both here in the front and also here in the rear, you can see that you can feel free to mount here just whatever you would like to. So some fenders, some racks. If you're a commuter, this bike will also work for you pretty well. And so I've mentioned three types of customers, of cyclists that should consider buying this one. The first, obvious, cyclocross racers. So if you are going to race on cyclocross, if you're going to use cyclocross races as your training for, let's say, next season MTB races, you're going to go for cyclocross bike. That's obvious. Number two, cyclists who wanna ride on the road but are heavyweight and maybe want to start losing weight by cycling. These bikes have also, let me show you, more spokes, wider tires as I told you, and more durable wheels just overall. And so this will be much better for heavier riders. So if you are overweight, cyclocross bike might be better for you. You're not gonna be so much in the aero position also with your belly, You're gonna have less air pressure in the wider tires on this bike. You don't have to have these knobby tires. You can have slicks, which are just 33 or even more in terms of the width, and that could really be a good thing for you if you want to go for speed and you're not really capable now of riding mountain bikes on some climbs. Cyclocross bike might be a very good option for you. And finally, number 3, commuters. Cyclocross bikes have been commuter bikes for years. If you consider commuting on the cyclocross bike, because this one, for example, will allow you to put some packs on it and fenders, and so it will be pretty perfect for commuting. You also need to compare this one to gravel bike or so-called adventure bike, because now I think the cyclocross bikes will be more for training and racing in cyclocross, and gravel adventure bikes might be pretty good for commuting. But still, the lower price cyclocross bikes will have those eyelets, and you will be able to use those as a commuter. So just the last look at the cyclocross bike. They look pretty much like a road bike, and somebody who doesn't know much about cyclocross would think, oh, this is a road bike with some knobby tires. And it's kind of true. These are pretty sweet for trainings. If you're gonna train for the winter, during the winter for the next season, cyclocross bike is really sweet, and I do recommend trying some local cyclocross races, because these are all about fun, a lot of fun, very powerful, very fast rides, because you're gonna accelerate through each corner, and also you're gonna be running with the bike, so that's interesting. And as for commuting, especially the alloy bike with all the eyelets and comfortable position, interesting. For me, pretty weird thing is that the cyclocross bikes on so technical terrain still run just the road specific components mostly. So that's something surprising for me, but still cyclocross bikes are pretty cool. This is what I wanted to show you. You've been watching Sick Biker.